Okay. All right. So let's begin with the next chapter. The next chapter is on Muslim League. You all have your books with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now the Muslim League basically started with the aspect of communalism. Communalism word you've heard before?
Yes, ma'am.
Most of you would have heard the word before. Yes. The communalism is basically nothing but a social organization on communal basis. Communal basis here means based on your religious or your ethnic affiliation to a particular group or to a particular organization. I hope everybody is on mute because I don't want any kind of disturbance. So what is communalism? It is basically a social organization or a setup of people on communal basis or loyalty towards a group which may be religious or ethnically inclined or affiliated. So communalism was something which played a great role as far as the establishment of the Muslim League was concerned, as far as the nationalistic fervor was concerned. If you remember anything of what we have done in grade 8 also, the Hindus and Muslims who were existing side by side used to take part in all the aspects of life together, which it may be a normal day-to-day schedule, it may be anything, or it may be with their
Yes.
common fight against their enemies. Even in the revolt of 1857, the Hindus and Muslims were fighting shoulder to shoulder. Y'all remember all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So since the Hindus and Muslims had been living together for centuries, they developed certain common ways of life. However, when the British came to India, the British exploited both of them, both these communities. And during the revolt of 1857, the British realized that this unity of the Hindus and Muslims may prove to be very harmful or detrimental for the success of the British in India. So they thought of dividing the communities into two by sowing the seeds of divide and rule. So they encouraged the communal forces to wreck the national movement. They dubbed the national movement as a movement for establishing the Hindu kingdom. Now I'll share a few pointers with you. So today's chapter is based on the Muslim League, and what we are going to read today is about the formation, how the Muslim League was founded, or what were the factors which led to the formation of the Muslim League. Once this is over, then we will move on to what were the objectives of the Muslim League. So moving on to the factors as to what led to the growth of the Muslim League, the first point it was loss of sovereignty of the Mughal Empire. You remember after in 1857, the Mughal Empire was no longer existing as far as their existence was concerned.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the British had established their supremacy because they dethroned the Muslim rulers, and so the Muslims, obviously, when their rule was taken away, when their kingdom was taken away, the Muslims became bitter enemies of the British. They participated in the Wahhabi movement, which aimed to end the British dominion in India. They also took part in the 1857 revolt. So because of the movements due to which the British became suspicious of the acts of the Muslims, they thought that now is the time when we should do away with the Hindus and the Muslims, and we should disintegrate the unity which is by them. So after 1870s, the British government adopted an attitude and started to follow a policy of appeasement. Now, policy of appeasement, I told you, to please somebody at the cost of someone else. So what the British started to do was that the British started to please the Muslims, and they tried to show that yes, we are in your favor and we will be granting you all the concessions. So they sowed the seeds of discontentment between the two communities, and they started to encourage separate or communal tendencies. They started to play one against the other, and that is how they the British sowed the seeds of the division into the minds of the Hindus and the Muslims. So once the Mughal Empire was no longer there, the Muslims came up in arms against the British, but British soon realized that this was something which would not allow them to progress. So they started to project a picture that they are in favor of the Muslims. Next, as we move on from the sovereignty, they moved from the policy of divide and rule. The British became apprehensive of the safety and stability of the empire. So they saw the unity between the Hindus and Muslims as a big threat. They realized that both are equal as far as the determination is concerned, and now is the time we need to break that unity of theirs. So to check the growth of a unified nationalistic feeling in India, they started to encourage communal and separate tendencies of divide and rule. So under this divide and rule, Lord Mayo, when he was in India, he adopted a resolution by saying that Urdu will be made as a medium of instruction in the primary and secondary schools, and increase government aid to educational institutions run by the Muslims. The first thing he did was that he insisted that, okay, you can use Urdu as a medium of education and interpretation as far as your schools are concerned in the primary and the secondary sector, and we will also be granting aid to those schools which are imparting these educational institutions which are being run by the Muslims. Then they started to create hatred between the Hindus and the Muslims by portraying the Muslims as plunderers and Hindu rulers as cruel kings to their Muslim subjects. Now, what they did, they started to play the side game. They insisted that the Hindus should look upon the Muslims as plunderers, those who had come to the country to loot and plunder the wealth. And to the Muslims, they wanted to portray that, look, the Hindus are nothing but cruel rulers who would want to not give you any kind of concession. They will not allow you to coexist with them. So a picture which was being portrayed by both the Hindus and the Muslim by the British was a very grim one. So people those days didn't realize that what game the British were trying to play. So they fell into the trap laid by the British. Then the British tried to justify the partition of Bengal by saying that we were trying to separate the Muslims onto one part of the country so that there will be a new majority province of theirs, and there they can develop and grow as per their own needs and requirements. And we need not have any kind of interference from the Hindus, or they will not be subservient to the Hindus. So in the actual scenario, this was not the case. The case was that the Hindus and Muslims were always living together. But the British realized that in order to do away with them and to do away with the unity, they have to bring in the communal aspect. And that is how we can separate them. Then they also tried to utilize the caste structure. Now, if you remember anything about the caste system we had done about in grade 9, that was the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, Vaisyas and Sudras. Yes. So based on that, now they wanted to create a divide in the Hindus also by telling them that we have an upper caste and we have a lower caste, and they tried to play one against the other. Till the revolt of 1857, the Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, everybody used to consider themselves as one, and they never thought of themselves on separate communal lines. But the British started to treat all these communities as separate and accepted their leaders as authentic representatives. They said that now you can have your own leaders of your own community, and we will accept them in a very formal way. The British also tried to spread communal hatred through press, posters, literature, and public platforms. So, through all sorts of printed media, through all sorts of gatherings, or wherever the speeches and demonstrations were there, they tried to bring home the point that Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs are separate communities and they cannot coexist. So, these points finally, led to the successful aim being gained by the British of dividing and ruling the country, because they had realized that this is the only way when they can gain hold of the Indian subcontinent. Otherwise, this will not be possible. Any doubts still here? Anybody has any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Another aspect which led, or the cause which led to the formation of the Muslim League, was the relative backwardness of the Muslim. Now, relative backwardness of the Muslims or the Muslim community was as far as education, trade, and industry was concerned. So, basically, as far as their employment aspects and their educational outlook was concerned, the Muslims were relatively backward than the other non-Muslim classes. So, the communal and separatist trend of thinking grew amongst the Muslims to some extent because of their relative backwardness in education, trade, and industry. Now, the upper class Muslims were generally of the zamindar and aristocrats, and they were anti-British. So these people who were on the upper strata of the society were not pro-British, and they were conservative and they were hostile to modern education. This means that their thought process was very conservative. They were not progressive in their outlook, and they did not believe in any kind of modern education being imparted. So because of this, the number of Muslims educated as far as the Western system was concerned, the Western formal education was not accessible to most of the Muslims because they were not inclined towards it, and only those people who could gain hold of the Western system of education, that number was much lesser as far as the others were concerned. Then the British government in India consciously discriminated against the Muslims after 1857. They said that the Muslims were responsible for creating this revolt of 1857, and now as far as their enrollment in the civil and military services were concerned, there also they put this clause, and they were discriminated as far as gaining employment was concerned. So Muslims again started to feel that there was injustice which was met towards them. Now, the Muslim community was not involved too much as far as the industrial growth was concerned. Although obviously, if you do not have education, you will not be able to contribute in a skilled manner. So because of which they could not contribute much towards the industrial growth or progress, and they remained backward as far as their community was concerned, and they economically also they were lagging behind. Now, some of the Muslim community members did not keep up with the social and the up the modern day spheres, because they were proud of their own heritage and culture, and they did not want to accept the Muslim system of education. They felt that no, whatever is our culture, our system, we are good to go with that. We will not adopt any kind of modernization in our lives. Whereas in comparison, the Hindus had a much progressive outlook, and they really wanted to enhance themselves as far as their knowledge and education was concerned. So they, as far as they were Hindus were concerned, because they adopted the Western system of education, they could gain entry into the government services, whereas the Muslims who were not pro Western education system, they lagged behind. And again, this was a disadvantage as far as the Muslims were concerned. So when you do not have education, obviously you are not adopting the trend which is following, you will lag behind. So this led to the Muslims being not being in sync, or not coming into the mainstream as the Hindus were coming. So these circumstances were good enough for the British to again play the game that they wanted to incite the Muslims against the Hindus, by saying that, see, the Hindus are progressing, Hindus are moving ahead, Hindus are economically far better, you people are lagging behind. So why should that be done? We will extend certain concessions and favors to you, which you all must take, provided you all agree to what we have to say. So the Muslims realized, or rather they thought, that since we are not gaining much out of the present scenario, it's better to be on sides of the British, so that we can gain whatever concessions are being offered. So this policy of appeasement led to further divide and rule of the country. Now, another aspect or another factor which led to the growth of the communist or the communal aspect in our country was the role of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. You've heard of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan beforehand?
No.
Yes?
No.
Okay. Now, for Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, I'll just give you a brief. He was an educationist as well as he was a social reformer. However, he regarded both the Hindus as Muslims and as one. And he said that they are to be termed as one nation or Qaum. Now, Qaum is a Urdu word. So for him, the Qaum comprised of both the Hindus and the